Thanks to Asdin of Grinning Wolf Games, he has written this review of Cavern of Dreams for us, and Glen and I are going to jointly read it.
We are indeed. So Cavern of Dreams is a 3D platformer looking to bring back the nostalgic feelings of those 3D platformers of the 90s. Is it the platformer of our dreams though, or is it the stuff of nightmares? Well, again, thank you to Asdin for writing this review, and now, let's find out.
In the story of Cavern of Dreams, we follow the journey of a young dragon named Finn, who's on a quest to rescue his missing siblings who have been egg-napped. The clues Flynn has gathered lead him to the Cavern of Dreams, where he meets a mysterious character known as Sage. Sage is willing to lend Finn a hand in his search for his siblings, and she warns him of the dangers ahead. As the story progresses, Finn travels to new areas and meets various different characters along the way.
So moving on to gameplay then, as we said, this is a 3D platformer with an emphasis on puzzle solving and that collectathon element so well known in the 1990s. What separates this from other games in the genre is the huge influence of the N64, particularly games like Banjo-Kazooie, not only visually but in gameplay as well. Finn starts only being able to roll and jump, but as he finds more eggs, he will unlock new abilities. These aid him in reaching new areas and unlocking new levels. The game has no combat whatsoever, which may deter many, but it makes up for it mainly due to its tight controls. This also means that Finn cannot die or take damage in traditional terms. Harm from enemies instead will see him bounce off in pain, and falling into bottomless pits will cause him to respawn.
Now, the titular Cavern of Dreams is the main hub that connects the different worlds. Each world has its theme, challenges and puzzles. The first area you explore, for example, Lost Leaf Lake, has an out-of-reach platform that's stopping you from progressing any further. Upon exploration, you find a small tree bearing a smiling apple. Grabbing and throwing it on the ground will grow it, and Finn can subsequently climb it. Other puzzles require the player to keep an eye out for clues within the environment.
The most memorable level, as far as I was concerned, was Airborne Armada, where you navigate inside a giant living ship known as Mr. Carrington. It reminded me of Clanker's Cabin from Banjo-Kazooie, and it seems that Bi9 Studios have taken a lot of influence from that particular game. The level basically equates to you having to treat the boils of the Mr. Carrington ship, and throwing the ointment onto these boils constitutes a large part of the puzzling. You'll then become friends with that character, allowing you access further in. It's quite an obtuse level, but definitely one of the more fun ones because of that bizarre nature. Completing the puzzles does feel rewarding, especially when carrying out some of the tasks that seem a bit pointless to begin with, and there are a lot of visual cues as to where you have to go next, bringing each level to life.
Now, Finn has some helpful items that can aid him in his quest, and one of them is the Jester Boots. These shoes allow Finn to walk on the air when he steps off a platform's edge, similar to the hover boots in Ocarina of Time. These shoes are also an integral part to some of those puzzles. The platform in the game is quite well balanced. Finn has momentum to him, gradually picking up speed, both on land and underwater. The developer has managed to find a good balance between the speed of movement and the ease of which you can control the character. One of the hardest things to get right in 3D platformers is that maneuverability, trying to gauge the jump distances, and I found landing never to be an issue due to the way it was designed.
In fact, my only real issue with the controls comes in terms of one of the abilities, that being the horn bounce. This allows Finn to drop horn first into the ground and bounce higher than his standard jump. The issue arises though if this move is executed near a wall, as he will bounce off of it, throwing you off course. It is a small thing to be fair, but it can become a little tedious after a few failed attempts. I also found the camera to be slightly heavy and stiff, although there is a chance to change this in the options. I didn't find it made too much of a change, and this is one of the missteps that a few 3D platformers have made over the years.
There are various collectibles such as cards, mushrooms and eggs to find, and actually your siblings are within those eggs, and they're your main target. As mentioned earlier, collecting a certain amount will grant Sage the power to bestow an ability upon you. He'll eventually be spitting out water orbs and even glide through the air. These eggs are displayed within the centre of the hub area. Some of these also offer in their advice. And there are other quirky elements such as feeding mushrooms to a little dragon to gain additional hearts. The collectible cards fill out the encyclopedia, detailing all the friends and foes that you're going to encounter during the adventure, and a large chunk of your time will be spent hunting down those secrets.
Gameplay is definitely fun, if a little safe, but it does get the mix of platforming and puzzling just about right. The lack of any sort of combat may put some people off, but it scores 17 out of 20. Controls are tight and definitely do their job well. You have some of the issues that you always seem to find in these sort of games, camera being the main one. They score 16 out of 20.
Cavern of Dreams uses low poly renders for its characters as well as the world to go along with its old school theme. Not only that, but the developers have added a blur option to simulate the resolutions back in the day. It's a pretty convincing and clever touch, and certainly a reminder of the simpler times in gaming. How much it will be used though, well, that remains to be seen. Now the world and characters have a charm to them, and there is a whimsical and fairy tale tone throughout the experience. Some of the inanimate objects are brought to life as games of the past did, and that adds an element of charm in itself. The cartoonish vibe is definitely fitting for this type of game, and I particularly liked Finn's facial expressions during certain cutscenes. They've also dotted in various flat sprites to add some variety to the backgrounds.
These visuals will not gel with everyone, to be fair, but it is very in line with the games it's trying to replicate. The texts are easy to read and the frame rate did not stutter at any point during my playthrough, which would have been my main concern. In terms of audio, it has a variety of songs that are very fitting with simple melodies ranging from soothing to sinister. I did enjoy the soundtrack and the sound effects of the game, particularly the vocals of Finn as he happily jumps or dashes through each stage. Visuals are bright and charming and definitely evoke memories of the 1990s, and they score 16 out of 20. Again, audio does exactly what it needs to do, and again it does make you think of those games of the 90s with cheerful melodies and more sinister tracks as you move through. It scores 17 out of 20.
Cavern of Dreams will be out digitally for just £9.99 or your regional equivalent, and it's going to require a very small 241 meg download. Now the game is published by Super Rare Games, so there's a chance of a limited physical copy in the future. Honestly, I think the price is pretty spot on, considering the amount of content. We do need to emphasise the lack of combat, because that will be a deal breaker for some people, but still, in terms of value, we give it 18 out of 20.
To conclude, Cavern of Dreams is a fun game that is particularly appealing to fans of the platforming genre, especially those 3D platformers of the 1990s. On the surface, it does a good job of capturing both the beauty and the scars of old age, meaning it's almost a double-edged sword of strengths and weaknesses in terms of what you remember those games to be. Those who are nostalgic for such platformers will likely enjoy the game, but others may find some frustrating elements due to the lack of enemies and some of the puzzles that can be a little complex at times. It's a rewarding game though that can offer many hours to those completionists out there, and one we would recommend.
Lovely, cheers to Astin, let him know what you thought of that one. What did you think of us jointly reading through the review? It was certainly interesting to do. If you want to save money on any of your physicals, digitals, all of that stuff, controllers, there's links down in the description, as well as a new code for Red Art Games. You can save 10% over there.
Absolutely, they've got some very good games as well, to be fair, some that we've been playing recently in one of our recent interesting games episodes as it transpires. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.